For passwords, why your password policy sucks. So I talk really fast, but I'll, So anyways, my name's Redm. I'm also Minga. I somehow accidentally inherited a new alias of Crack Me If You Can on Twitter and whatever. And that's because I started and I run the Crack Me If You Can password cracking contest at DerbyCon. So I gave myself a new full-time job. I'm a pen tester, I work for CoreLogic, things like, like if you use Metasploit and you have it audit just to start cracking your passwords, if you go in there and look at the rules, it's essentially tons of my rules from like 2010 or whatever. So, my job is a penetration tester. I'm also a password cracker for hire. The agencies, companies, or whatever give us dumps and we give them cracks. And that's like my job, so that's kind of cool. So don't read my slides. That's a lot of things, there'll be like notes in there for me. Like there's nothing up there for you. There's a few places where I'll say look at that, but otherwise like just don't read it. Okay, just kind of people at home, it's good to have it or whatever, but just listen. So here's the basic theory, okay, and this is kind of devil's advocate. The basic idea of password policy is that, it's complexity. It makes users choose stronger passwords, so therefore our systems are safer. That's the basic theory, okay? It makes stronger, safer passwords. So we've already proved, based upon, there's been tons of talks and everyone's pretty much aware of it now via stuff on all the paste bins and all the major leaks that have been going on over the past, 3, 4, 5 years, that people on regular old internet sites choose shitty passwords. And if anyone's going, I did not know that, well, we got a long way to go. So that's already been proven, so I'm not going to talk about that. People use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as a password on internet sites. There's nothing there for us. Yes, okay. So that's been proven. So LinkedIn happens. So what's different? Okay, because now it's like, hey, wait a minute. That is a user base that's not 13-year-olds. Hey, wait a minute. Think all of a sudden that is a built-in user base that I know that they know things. And hey, did they follow it? So were the passwords chosen by people on LinkedIn more complex? Yes, they were more complex. Were they harder to crack? No. That's where we're going. So the general theory is that the complexity requirements that business people, for lack of a better term, it introduces vulnerabilities. Okay, and I'll show you just example. Oh, you want some math? Here's some math. So anyways, I don't know if you're offense, I don't know if you're defense, I don't know who you are, okay? But the general thing is, if this applies to you in any ways, you should be abusing this. If you're an offense, if you're defense, you should be aware of this, you should be auditing for it, and you should protect your users from doing these dumb things, okay? So let me show you. So what I have access to, since I'm a penetration tester, I'm going into Fortune 50s. And I'm compromising entire domains. I'm compromising single sign-ons of these huge places. 100% of these places enforce password complexity. So everyone's like, I've got tons of hashes from pastebin. Well, that's 0% forced, password complexity for the most part. Well, in the enterprise world, of course they do, So it's pretty standard, the length's got to be 8. There's got to be 3 out of 4 categories. So upper, lower, special digit, we're going to talk a lot about that. You got to have 3 of the 4. .gov places have 12, 222, length 12, 2 upper, 2 lower, 2 special, 2 digit. I'll talk about a little bit about that later. Domain admins have to have stronger passwords, but the other thing is password histories, and we're going to talk a little bit about that later. That is, you can learn so much about what individual users are doing if you have their last 6 passwords, and there's new things, and so you can really learn and see what they're doing when they think no one's watching. The other cool thing is, since I'm a password cracker, since I'm a penetration tester, the largest thing I have access to is NTLMs. Why is that a big deal? It's the fastest algorithm to crack. So, you think, oh man, MD5s are so trivial. Well, MTLMs are faster to crack. So it's really easy to do math. So anyways, a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about, it's not based on rocku.txt, which is a big leak that was put out that everyone has from years ago. So, and the other cool thing is, since this is enterprise type stuff, The data sets aren't little small, they're big, so it's easy to extrapolate data, it's easy to extrapolate math and figure out the real patterns that people are using. Okay, so let's just jump right in, okay? And I'm gonna lead you down one path, and then I'm gonna tell you something about that path later. And then we're gonna go to another path. Okay, so date-based. Okay, so here's the thing. So we know people use date-based passwords. You know, oh, I created the account in September, so my password's September. We know that people do that on, you know, their World of Warcraft message board or wherever, you know. But as soon as you introduce password rotation, which everyone does because it improves security, users are gonna invent a way to remember their password. It's constantly changing. Even if you made it have to change every year, they'd still bitch and moan. Okay, so as soon as you do 90-day rotation, everyone's gonna do seasons. You know, so I show up, what's your password, what month is it now? Well, it's summer where I live, maybe it's fall here. So fall 2013, summer 2013. So real quick, a wireless test in the parking lot. There were no rogue access points, but they had set up a few access points where you had to authenticate to the domain. Their usernames were just numbers, 8-digit numbers. Okay, well, I'm gonna start at 100,000 and sit there and try winter 2012, and I did about 1,000 of those. And after about 1,000 tries, I finally found a valid username whose password was that, bang, on the internal network from the parking lot. No special wireless tricks at all. It was just, hey, it's winter 2012, you know, their usernames are sequential, it's easy to find them, and then bang, and it, you know, took a half an hour. I was like, yeah, that was easy, you know. So, Fortune 50. If you do 30-day rotation, people are gonna do months. Well, people are gonna do months anyways, okay. This sounds a little trivial, like, yeah, I know that. This destroys, kills, destroys. The highest level enterprise admin will do this and think that no one knows that and think that they're doing something. It destroys, kills. I mean, you'll see places where 15% of the user base is doing this, okay? So, do you see this stuff on RockU and the big LinkedIn list? Yeah, you see some of it, but nothing like you do in the enterprise world. You know, it's easier. So, rotation policy introduces vulnerabilities. Okay, well, how do you know if your users are doing this or not doing this? How do you know? Yeah, you got to audit. All right, well, another thing is keyboard patterns. So if some places were like, okay, hey, you know, they do the new user training, you got to choose better passwords. You know, and they teach them little tricks, and they'll teach them keyboard patterns. Maybe they don't, and someone figures it out. With modern tools, you can destroy this. It's so easy because of modern password cracking tools like Hashcat or OCL Hashcat. You take two word lists and you bump them together. Okay? Well, so what does that mean? I need a left and a right. On the left, I'm going to have all the finger patterns I can think of. On the right, I'm going to have all the finger patterns I can think of in all different combinations and capitalizations. And I'm just going to bump them together and boom. Oh, by the way, that takes like 3 minutes to run. So in the .gov world or .mil world or whatever, kills. Now, I mean, it doesn't kill like it gets 60, 70% of cracks, but I mean, we're talking about passwords that are 12 characters. So, and on down there, okay, so now look at my slides. So the fourth from the bottom line, that's an obvious finger pattern, okay? You know, QWE123, and look at your keyboard, TYU, blah, blah, blah. But then they add a number at the end. Oh, man, that was sneaky. So these days, you can take two word lists, bump them together, and then apply a rule. So you can do a finger pattern and then put the recent year on there. It's just built in, it's just easy, it's whatever. So this little trick, this person's like, oh, I'm gonna do a finger pattern, but then I'm gonna add an extra one at the end. Haha, they wouldn't get that. You know, come on guys. So something to think about is there's all sorts of different combinations. So like 2x4 means a two finger keyboard pattern. You know, QW, NM, and there's 4 of them. So you have to think about all the 2-character ones. And then there's, you know, 2x5 for a 10-character, all the way down to a 4x4. So a 4-finger pattern. So just look at your keyboard and get 4 fingers and go or down, or maybe they're up, or maybe it's right to left, and do 4 of those. That makes a 16-character password. And then occasionally hold shift. You have to think about all those modes. Don't worry about that bottom line. So this is what I'm talking about. So I went to my john.pot file, which is every password I've ever cracked from an enterprise and etc. ever. And these are real ones that have come out. So those are real passwords belonging to real users from real sites that have to follow password policy. So there's a 20-character password, you know. It's 2 upper, 2 lower. It's 5 upper, 5 lower, 5 special, 5 digits. So that's what we're talking about. Some places you will go and you'll find 20% of the people doing finger patterns. You go to another place and not a single person's doing it. So you don't know what your enterprise is doing. Some of my big clients, they have this problem, it's riddled. Other places not. So, while on the subject of double lists, so the idea of taking, everyone knows, in password cracking you get a word list, you have rules, you run that against that, and you crack passwords. But now the whole thing is you got double lists. So I got 2 word lists, so 2 unique word lists. Every first name from LinkedIn, every last name from LinkedIn, and then push those together and then do things like capitalize each word. So these are real passwords that I've changed to protect the, guilty. You know, you can kind of get a feel that those are really long passwords, but if you look at them, you can identify them. I mean, Professor Redm, it's got 2 capital letters. Well, what are people going to do when you require 2 capital letters? Where are they going to put, I mean, and we'll talk a little bit about this, but you kind of get a feel. This is trivial to perform. These aren't stronger. I mean, Unix password 2010, well, guess where I found that? On an OS2 machine. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, so anyways, okay, so I kind of showed you a little bit. So where's the number, okay? So does your policy require a digit? Yes. Okay, so think about your user base. They're highly intelligent. So anyways, you require a digit. Where's it going to be? It's going to be at the end, 90% of the time. It's human nature. What's your password? Well, my password is Mississippi. Oh, I require a number? 1. That's what they're going to do. Okay, so yeah, we know this. This isn't rocket science. Just the rules have been set up that way since the early 90s. Well, sometimes it's going to be at the beginning. Sometimes it's going to be in the middle between 2 other words. Well, same thing with special character. Okay, if I require a special character, where's it going to be? Oh, it's going to be password 1, and then it's going to be exclamation point. Okay, well, along those same lines, what special character are they going to use? Okay, so what do you think is the most popular? Exclamation point. It's way too early for participation. So what do you think the least popular is? Oh, maybe left bracket or right bracket or something like that. Something you got to do shift and it's way over there or something like that. You kind of get the feel, but here's the kicker. Does your tool take advantage of that? When you're doing it, if you're doing a brute force or you're just running John by default, I mean, is your tool smart enough to do the most popular ones first in the most popular places? And the thing is, you don't know, you know, because I've been a password, I've been doing this since '99, and for longest time, you know, I didn't know what it was doing either until I started really getting into it. So that's the thing. So there's an order in the human mind to where they'll put these added characters, okay? And then there's an order in the human mind of which characters they're going to use. And it's not universal, but it's kind of universal. I mean, exclamation point is always the most popular. I have never done a big assessment and pulled out and said, what's the most popular special character, and had it not be exclamation point, okay? So are you taking advantage of this? Are your tools taking advantage of it? Does your password policy allow exclamation point? Because you know everyone's going to use it, so why allow it? Okay, so let's talk a little, we talked a little bit about rotation. I said, oh, hey, if you do it every 3 months, you do it every 1 month, you're going to know it. Okay, so what about the smarter people that are like, okay, well, I can't use seasons and I can't use months, but I still have to change my password. And I'm a human, and no one's watching what I'm doing, so I have to rotate my password but still remember it. So what are you going to do? Well, users use the same root word, and I don't know the best word, but we'll call it the root word. You know, meaning if their password's Mississippi 1 exclamation point, it's going to be Mississippi 2 exclamation point, or 2 at. You know, I mean, they're going to use the same root word. So only because they know no one's watching. Okay, so this is really, really relevant in Active Directories because, well, once I penetrate them, I can go and get the histories, but also when it comes to like Microsoft Cache. So I bag a machine, there's a cache credential, oh, it's from 6 months ago, oh, it's no longer valid, but I see that the password is, you know, Mississippi 4, and I'm like, well, that was 5 months ago or whatever, and so in just a few tries, I'll crack it. I'll crack the new one. Or I'll brute force it and actually do the attack and figure it out. And if your lockout's 5, I'm going to get it because now his password's Mississippi 4. So it's not like a theoretical thing. It's not theoretically bad. It's actually bad. Okay. So users will use the same patterns every time, even if they change the word. Like if it's Mississippi 1 and then you require them to rotate their password, then they're going to go Alabama 1. I don't know if anyone, anyways. And then the next one's going to be Texas 1. Or, they're going to use the same pattern because they know no one is watching. Okay? So I want to introduce this term called topology. Okay? And I'll show you, I will talk about topologies till your ears bleed a little later. Okay, so here's like some examples. Someone's really good password going to be Smith Wesson 12, then it's going to be Smith Wesson 13, then it's going to be Smith, or they're just going to rotate their special characters. Users wouldn't do this if you didn't force them to change their passwords so much. But you have to. You got to force them to change their passwords. Insert long argument here. So I already talked about that. If you bag an old Windows machine, you get a cache credential. Even if it's old and no longer working, then you can still get the new one. Okay, so everything I just talked about is old news. None of that is breaking. None of that is like, oh, this guy is great. This is just like, yeah, we've known about this stuff. Okay? So, and I've released talks and word lists that are specifically for like enterprise and corporate worlds of what I see. So it's like, oh, okay, well, what's every major technology? What's every sports team? What's every city? What's every river in India? Sounds obtuse, but I made it for a reason. Things like that. So we've released all these, there's tons of word lists. A lot of them are built into Metasploit now, blah, blah, blah. A guy named Threat Agent actually made a thing where you can go type in your company, and then it'll go do a bunch of recon on your company, like where your offices are and stuff, and then generate a word list based off like what your company does and what it sells and where its location. Then like, oh, well, you're in Louisville, so we're going to put the Louisville, crap, I don't know the sports teams here. Cardinals. Yeah, we don't have any. Yeah, anyways, bad example, but you get the idea, and so you could extrapolate because in the enterprise world that destroys. Don't worry about the bottom thing. This is from a password convention. So, okay, so this is all old. We'll talk about something kind of new. So users are human. They're doing something in their mind that they think when no one's watching. You have a finite amount or type of users. You got sysadmins, you got HR, you got executives, you got blah, 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 blah. I got this kind of person, I got this kind of person. I got a weenie, I got a non-weenie. I got a Unix admin with a beard, I got a Windows admin without a beard. Well, you've got a finite amount, a type of person, okay? But then there's other categories. So let's say that you outsource to another company, okay? And the best, so you're outsourcing tons of jobs to this country. Well, people love using names. Do you have a list of names for that country? Because maybe it's not going to be John, Bob, Susan, Rick, and stuff like that. It's going to be other kinds of names. So doing a pen test, and domain admin had a character password that was 14, and as it turns out, it was just his 2 kids' names bumped together. That's all it was, and both of them were capitalized. The thing was, he's an Indian guy. And his kids' names weren't names that I, that I say every day. And so it was just, oh, okay, well, I'm just, instead of using the United States government's list of popular names, it's like, okay, well, let's get a list of names from other places, or use every first name from LinkedIn or something like that. So eventually it was like, oh, wow, that really works at this place. A lot of this. And so I targeted a country, a language that was in use at this place, and it killed. So anyways, you already have your list of names, right? Because there's tons of big lists, and then do they match the makeup of your target? So things like Wipro or Centel, if you've never heard of them, don't worry about them. If you work at a place that has them, every single one of those people use Wipro or Centel in their password. Everyone. It's like it's their corporate policy. Slap the crap out of them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It's like, I wonder who the Wipro employees are. Oh, well, they all have Wipro in their password. So this is how, when big leaks happened, this is how you identify them. So when LinkedIn happened, it showed up on Inside Pro, which is a message board. You crack a whole bunch of passwords. You get rid of all capitalizations, make it all lowercase. You get rid of all the numbers. You get rid of all the specials. You sort unique, sort based on whatever the most popular one is, and bam, and you get a list of words. So what's the most popular word in LinkedIn once you get rid of capitalizations and leetness and uppers and lowers? And what's the most popular word on LinkedIn? No, that was like second. But anyways, the first one ends up being like a name or something. Anyway, that's a trick question. Sorry, I'm an ass. But yeah, it's so obvious. It's so obvious. It's linked, LinkedIn, or link. And you're like, oh, I wonder where this is from, And so that's what we did. And so it was really obvious, So that happens about 5 to 10 times a week for me because I get tons of large leaks. Hey, where is this from? Like, you start cracking, like, oh, I sure am seeing a lot of European sports teams. Sure am seeing a lot of European sports teams. Sure am. Oh, wait, now I'm seeing gambling terms. Now I'm seeing gambling terms. Oh, wait, what's this word? There's a word in the top 10, I don't recognize that word. You Google it, oh crap, it's a European gambling site, And oh, by the way, it's 11 million hashes. Every week I go through that, okay? So I mentioned topologies. This is what the topologies are. Okay, so this is kind of like the new idea. Now to password crackers, this isn't new, but I want to, if you're offense or whether you're defense, I want to show you how easy this is, okay? So, here's the language. So actually look at the screen. So on the left there, you see the fifth line down, ULLLLD. Okay? And then it's represented again with these question marks, which is how you actually do it. What that means is upper, lower digit. Okay? So in that particular case, that's an 8-character password. Okay? That starts with an uppercase, and it's got a bunch of lower cases, and then it's D. With modern password cracking tools like Hashcat or OCL Hashcat, you can specify this. The upper, lower digit, and it'll go and brute force those. So it's a brute force attack, but very targeted against this particular topology, okay? So I don't care what your word lists are. It doesn't matter. It could be random letters. That topology is going to kill. It's going to destroy. So take a machine with 4 7970s, which is a graphics card, about $300 each. So we're talking about $1,400, maybe $2,000 max. If you put like neon in it and stuff. So that little topology right there takes 5 seconds to run. Just 5 seconds. No word list. It's essentially a brute force, but it's targeted specifically toward you only do upper, then lowers, and then digits. Okay, so keep that in mind. So like the bottom left, upper, lower digit. So you got Austin 3. It takes 3 seconds. So this one over here, you've got upper, lower, digit. It's Austin 13. So it's a word. Oh, I got to capitalize the letter. I'm going to capitalize the first one. I'm going to add 2 digits. Bam. Okay, so you kind of get the feel. So let me show you. These topologies, like what's the most popular topology at your enterprise or at your client that you're penetrating? These topologies are universal, meaning we all in corporate environments, we all have things that say, oh, it's got to be 8 characters, it's got to have 3 of the categories. Every place has almost the same password policy. These topologies are universal between sites. Now, I mean, there's some little nitpicking and, oh, this one's higher here and this one's lower here and stuff like that. But if you create a list of the most popular ones and then show up at a new place to perform a password audit, guess what? You're going to kill because they're kind of universal. So that makes my job really easy. It's great. I love it. So in quotes, I never have seen password complexity, so password filth in Windows or whatever you have that when people type in a password, I've never seen one that looks at the pattern of the word and then says, no, that topology is too popular. Now, at Passwords 13, which was a conference before DEF CON, a guy showed off like a demo of one, and ours is coming out as well. That's hooked into PAM, and then eventually be hooked into Windows and stuff. So your list of root words, like the list of names and the list of cities and the list of sport teams, is less important. Now, you still use them. So here's the thing, if you've been collecting stuff from Pastebin and you got the LinkedIn list and oh, I've got the, this list and this list, and you've created these topologies, all those things on the internet, they don't have to do password complexity. They don't have to follow those rules, so the topologies are going to be different, okay? So, but how long is this going to be true? How long are we going to put up with this crap? How long are we going to allow sites to not have password complexity? Okay, well, it's already getting there. I mean, I sign up with my bank and they've got JavaScript that says, no, you need to make your password stronger. So we're getting there. But, I mean, all the other websites, what's the percentage of websites that you can go and register for still don't have proper password complexity requirements or actually force password rotation? How long is that going to stand? 1 year, 5 year, 10 year? I don't know. Okay, so some other little quick stats to lead up to what I'm about to show you. So an 8-character NTLM, so a Windows password is all I'm talking about. It can be cracked in hours. Okay, every one of them, I don't care if it's 100% random. So, I mean, I know a guy, he's got one that can do it in 6 hours, but I just saw a blog post where a guy built this insane machine. I guarantee you he's got it down to less than an hour. I can do it in just like a few days. Okay, so any 8-character, I don't care if it's 100% random and it's all specials and whatever like that. So, but 9-character passwords, to do a complete brute force, it still kind of takes weeks. Okay, well, I don't have a week. I'm on a 5-day pen test and I bagged the domain on Tuesday or I bagged the domain on Wednesday. So as soon as you start getting into 9-character or 10 characters, these patterns become more important because I know if your password's 8 characters, I'm getting it. Okay, there's no discussion there. So, but in corporate environments, they have LDAP, they got these things called salted SHAs. Okay, it's not NTLM, it's salted SHAs. They're harder to crack. Every password has a unique salt, so they're harder to crack. So you have to be smarter. You can't just go hit John and hit enter and be like, oh, I'm a password cracker. Because you have to be smarter than that. So anyways, in most places, when I see 9-character passwords, I can get 50% of them within a few hours. So I went from it taking weeks to a few hours because of this stuff. So these are all 9-character passwords, okay? So you got upper, a whole bunch of lowers, and a digit. So all that is a word with a capital letter and a number. And the second most popular is 4 numbers. The third one is 2 numbers. On down. That one's got 3 numbers. That one's got 4 numbers, but then they require a special character. Okay, well, it's always going to be at the end, and it's always going to be exclamation point first. So you go on down, so you can see, oh, I've got to brute force the entire 9-character address space. No, you don't. You run those 7 things, and you're getting a huge percentage of the users because users are human. No one's watching. They've never been told about this, okay? I can't believe no one laughed at my words. Okay, so let me show you some real data from real sites, okay? So a very large company, a company with 264,000 employees, just like where you work. So we were able to crack 263,000 out of those, thanks to Landman. Insert long discussion here from a few years ago, Landman bad, whatever. So of all those passwords we cracked, we found 7,000 roughly patterns, okay? Well, what were the most popular patterns? Okay, well, the first one there is like a word, it's capitalized, it's got 2 digits at the end. So that one is Austin 12. I'm from Austin, that's why I keep saying that. Austin 13. So the second most popular pattern was a 7-letter word with 2 digits at the end. Okay, and then we're back to an 8-character password, and it's a 4-letter. So that's love 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a capital letter, some few lower cases, and then 4 numbers. So this is what people are actually doing. So notice in the top 4 here, there's no question S. Question S means special characters. Oh, you require a special. Notice they don't require a special, okay? Or they do, but people do digits instead, and that meets the rules, okay? So I'm going to get into this, but look at the first line and the second line. That's 12% of the users do that one, and 12% of the users do that one. Okay, so bear with me. There's 7,000 topologies. There's about 3,000 that are used more than once. Okay, so those are not random. There's some sort of pattern about those. The most popular pattern was used 33,000 times. It was about 12% of the users. It takes 4 seconds to run. So there you go. Big ass domain, 100% in 4 seconds on a machine that cost, you know, anyways, insert joke. It's too early. So okay, so now let's extrapolate. The first 5 most popular patterns, remember I said those patterns are universal across all enterprises for the most part. And this is when I get into an argument with a password weenie. The topmost 5, you crack 48% of their passwords, including totally random ones. And of course, they're not totally random. It's, you know. So now, and those 5 patterns, it runs in about 10 or 20 minutes. So now I'm at 50% cracked, you know, Fortune 50, Fortune 100, Fortune 500 enterprise. And we're talking in 10 or 20 minutes, I'm at 48% cracked. Okay. Now you can do it other methods and you can get that percentage and things like that. So think about the top 100 patterns. If you, at this company, this is real, this is my client's data, that's all saying, I mean, you can't tell who this is. So the top 100 patterns, if you run just those 100 patterns, no word lists, no rules, no summer 13, you don't even try that stuff. You crack 85.3% of their passwords. There's no logic there, there's no brains. I mean, literally, I have a script that just does it and I go have a Coke and a smile. You know, and there's kind of like a running thing about the mythical 80%, you know, password weenies are like, oh, did we get to 80%? Yeah, just because that's kind of like, you know, you gotta get somewhere. Because it used to be really, really hard to get to 80% cracked. I mean, it used to be I would work for a week, get to 50% cracked, and then take weeks to increase it. Now we're talking about running 10 or 100 command lines that are universal and cracking 85%. Okay, so how long does that take? Well, it takes not too long. It takes a few hours, okay? And a few can be 23.9. So anyways, so crack smarter, change your tactic, use your tools better. If you're just running John and you hit enter and let it go, you're not doing this, okay? I'm gonna have a sip, sorry. So example number 2, large company with 450,000 employees. So it compromised their large single sign-on, and it's salted SHA. And what that means is it's harder to crack. Okay, it's not. The other example is NTLM and Landman. It's easy to crack. So these are harder to crack. I mean, mathematically, it takes a lot more to crack these. Okay, so eventually we got about 419,000 cracked out of 449. So we got a pretty good percentage. I'm proud. I'll admit. You know, so we found 14,000 patterns. Okay, well, what were the most popular patterns? Well, you know, you got a 6-letter word with some digits. You got a 6-letter word that's capitalized at the beginning with 2 digits and then a special. So, hey, wait a minute. Special character. They must, like, require a special, okay? On down, you've got a 3-letter word. So, insert 3-letter word here. 4 numbers and a special. Okay, so that's, you know, cat 1, 2, 3, 4, exclamation point. Cat capitalized. So that's 8 characters and meets all 4 rules, upper, lower, special digit. Okay, so on down. So what's the least most popular pattern I saw? It was 12 uppercases followed by 3 digits and a special, which I thought was funny. So if you take the 5 most popular patterns, you crack 16%. Well, remember in the previous example I said the most popular pattern, just 1, cracked 12%? So hey, wait a minute, we're seeing something. Okay, so out of all the passwords, we identified 14,000 of these. There's about 7,000 that are valid, meaning more than 1 people use them. The single most popular pattern we found was only used by 4.3%. Well, that's a third as the other company. The top most 5 patterns were about 16%, and the other one was 48%, so we're still at about a third. So you take the top 100 patterns, run it through, and you crack 62.2% of their passwords. So what was the other company's number? What was it, 80, 85, 84? Who has got better passwords? This place. Now, you know, theoretically, insert argument here. Yes, 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 I know. But here's the thing, like I'm going to an auditor, I leave here, go to an auditor's convention, and I'm going to speak to auditors in ties, you know, and it's like, You audit everything. You audit the ergonomics of the desk chairs in the office, but you don't audit this. Those are numbers. Those are quantifiable, provable numbers that you can go and see improve over time. Who does this? Nobody. My clients do it, and they pay me to do it. It's great. So it's kind of where I'm getting at. Okay, so I'm going to kind of tell you how I do this. And in the top left there, a little bit of a warning here. It's kind of a sales pitch. It's not. I'm just telling you about how I do this, because this is what I do, okay? So I throw that out there. So you got a whole bunch of machines. Now, the way a lot of these guys do it is they put all their GPU machines in one environment, in one colo, all next to each other. It's not Ethernet. They use InfiniBand, and it acts like one big computer. Well, that is real expensive, and that's not how my company works, okay? We're a virtual company, so our machines are diverse. So our machines are all over the internet and all over different colos. The one I built recently right now is submerged in mineral oil and runs in mineral oil. I'll talk about that later. So anyways, you got all these machines and GPUs all over. Some of them are in people's houses. Oh, hey, new employee, here's your company computer. By the way, it's got a 7970 in it, and it's going to crack passwords, okay? So you share the hash list. Okay, I got these hashes from a client. I'm going to share it to all of them. Okay, and you do it securely, encrypted drives, and all the protocols are public-private, so there's no passwords or anything. You have to have a key to get to where you want to go, and the firewall rules are deny all unless you've been pre-approved. So then you also share your word lists and your rules and all your other things. So you share this information. On the master server, you create a queue of jobs. Okay, you say, okay, the very first job I'm going to run is going to be the most likely to succeed. The second one's going to be, it's going to succeed, and then you go on down. But do that for 6,000 jobs. So the very bottom job is going to be okay, get a word list that's every river in India, capitalize, don't capitalize, and add 6 numbers at the end. Well, you might, that might crack something, because I've seen it before, but the likelihood that it would is very small. So that kind of gives you an idea. It's an order. It's an ordered list of most likely to succeed. So insert years of research here into what works the best and put them in an order. Because eventually I'm not just going to do those topologies. I'm going to do a word list, because I've got a word list that I know destroys at corporate environments, okay? Or I can target it for anything. I can target it for government. I can target it for this. I can target it for LinkedIn. So you have this list. So a job comes up and says, okay, I'm a GPU cracking machine. I'm not doing anything. Give me a job. And it pops one off the top, and it runs it. So it runs it, it runs it, it runs it. When it finishes, it uploads its results and says, hey, I'm not doing anything. Give me a job. So we got about 10 or 20 of these machines. Well, what if I had 100 of these machines? What if everyone in this room joined in on my grid, and we all worked together to do LinkedIn? But here's the thing. Let's pretend there's 100 people in this room, and for the people online, there's actually 10,000. So let's pretend there's 100% of the people. 3 people. Those are the people on LinkedIn whose passwords aren't cracked. Currently, LinkedIn's about 97% cracked. My password's in there. So anyways, so you have all these machines, they all run jobs, they all share the results to a centralized place. Well, what do I do as a password cracker? I sit on that one machine and just wait for cracks to come in. And then I'm freed up to go and to analyze results and come up with new word lists and target certain people, and I can go and do everything, and I'm not having to think because I've done all the research and math. The hash list is going to shrink over time because I'm getting more and more cracks. When I started cracking LinkedIn, it was however big it was, and now I'm down to 3%. So it's a lot less hashes, which means they go a lot faster. That's especially important when you're doing single sign-on or salted SHAs, because there's all these salts. That makes the math harder, and the less passes you have, the faster it goes. So centrally monitored, full disk encryption on everything, and there's no outsourcing of hardware. Now, I'm going to make a few people mad. There are sites, there's coming up. The idea of having people audit your passwords are coming up, and it's send us your hash list, which immediately is dangerous, but I'm asking my clients to do it as well. Send us your hash list, and we'll crack it on Amazon. So wait a minute. You're going to trust a third party who you don't already have a business relationship with to crack your passwords. Okay, well, there's some trust there, and I require my clients to do the same thing. I'm bonded and insured, and I will lecture you about how our machines are set up for hours. But you're going to do that, and so, oh, that's kind of bad. And then they're going to go and put it on Amazon. Well, luckily, no one's ever figured out how to pull files off someone else's Amazon, share. And then a new one came up by another security vendor, and they're doing the same thing where it's like, okay, well, we'll run the software, but you give us your API creds for Amazon EC2, and then we'll run it that way. And so that way it's on your machines. It's not on your machines, it's on an Amazon machine. So, it's the stupidest thing ever. You're going to hand off something that's incredibly sensitive, which is scary, and like I said, I ask my people to do that. But then you're going to put it on Amazon? And I just do not get that. And so that's, the tactic we do is we own the machines. Okay, so, I've scared you, theoretically. Or you're bored. So how do we improve? How do we fix this? Well, you got to create password policies that are based on this topology stuff, the upper, lower, digit, in addition to what you're already doing. Man, is it going to piss people off. I'm on the offense side. I'm never on the defense, so I can recommend anything I want. But in addition, going on, it's like you have to create policies that are based on what your users are doing. Well, how do you know what your users are doing? You got to find out. What patterns are they doing? Figure out that pattern, block it. What root words, and this one especially, you cannot argue with the root words. What are the root words that people are doing? All right, well, my client's in Poughkeepsie. Oh, crap, 10% of my users are using the word Poughkeepsie and then adding crap at the end. Ban Poughkeepsie. What special character is the most popular? Exclamation point. Crap, 90% of my users are using exclamation point. Ban it. Because you're trying to diversify. You're trying to force your users to diversify the company's the way that the passwords look. So how do you know this stuff? How do you know the patterns? How do you know the root words? How do you know it's special characters? How do you know? You got to audit, Why do I have to sit there and lecture people about, no, dude, you need to do this? Like, seriously, everyone has a password, CEO to janitor. Or marketing, they're kind of below janitors. But then tie this into your SSO, your single sign-on. So, do it in Active Directory, do it in the Unix world, do it in your OpenLDAP, your SLAPD. Tie it all in. Your SiteMinder. You pay all this money for SiteMinder, and everything's tied into all the same single sign-on. You compromise that, you got everything, and then your password policy is letting people do password 1 with a capital P. It's 9 characters. It's got an upper, a lower, and a digit. It's 3 out of 4 characters, perfectly acceptable. So that's how you improve. Okay, so I'm going to anger you. You are not a special little snowflake, regardless of what your parents say, okay? The little trick that's in your head that you think no one else knows is used by millions of other people, okay? That little trick that you're like, oh, ha, 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 I'll capitalize the second letter. No. The thing is, even people who use summer 2013 as their password, or password 1, they think this. They think they're a special little snowflake because their mom and dad told them so, okay? Tell your users this. Prove it to them. Embarrass them if you have to. My goal is to improve for my clients their security. And if I have to use FUD, I have to. Now, there's no uncertainty. It's certainty. I have proved it to be true. So what do I do in pen test outbrief? I get all the Unix weenies with their beards and all the Windows admins with their dunce caps, and we put them in a room. We go over the report, I tell them what I did, and then I show them their frickin' passwords. I just put them up there. Now, I don't put the names next to them, but everyone in the room's going, oh crap, that's mine. I just went to a very large company and talked to people way above my pay grade, and I did the same thing. I said, hey, look, you've got 26 Unix admins. Their passwords are stored on DES on all these Solaris machines, thousands of them. Here's 20 of them. Here's 20 of the 26. Here's their password, okay? And I showed it to them. And some of them were random, and other ones were just things that a Fortune X size executive can look at and laugh at. So Unix Weenie, you're being laughed at by a person who's trying to put a floppy disk in a CD-ROM drive. Because they can be that simple. They think no one's watching. Okay? And if you got to do it, you got to do them. But then you got to train them. You got to train them how to be that unique, special snowflake. Okay? Now everyone in the room right now is going, that doesn't apply to me, Yeah, okay. But understand, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about your users, your adversary, the people you're going after, or the people you're trying to protect. They need to be told this. That little trick in your head is unless your trick is, I can really, I found out that I can remember 20 absolutely random set of characters magically, and I can remember 20 different sets of them because I'm a savant. Unless that's your special trick, anyways. And yeah, I'm going to get yelled at, argument here. Okay, so I'm kind of done. Little other things. Like I said, there's videos on YouTube of me. I have a giant GPU machine submerged in mineral oil. You take out all the fans, which is scary, and then you get a running computer and you drop it into liquid. It's weird. So anyways, I do that, and I actually have machines at home where I run GPU cards, and they're submerged in a smaller tank of mineral oil by themselves. And it keeps them cool, obviously. So a big thing is, like 5 years ago, I was giving password cracking talks, and there'd be like one guy in the room who understood what I was talking about. Like in the community in the last 5 years, it's huge how much this is growing. It used to be that no one knew how to write rules, no one was collecting links, no one was correcting lists, no one was making their word list better. Now there's just teams of people. Okay, doing this. I mean, the amount of people who I run into who know me, who are doing this, it just grows. I mean, there's multiple IRC channels for password crackers. There's multiple private groups of people doing things, and getting large lists. Do you know how lucky you are that LinkedIn was leaked publicly? Because it was out there privately for 6 months. No one knew about it. You know how it was figured out? Well, how it was figured out was I cracked it. I found out, they saw the word linked. But do you know how they figured out it was 6 months old? Was someone smarter than me changed their LinkedIn password every month for 6 months, and he said, dude, my password cracked. Like, yeah, I know, mine too. And then I posted my plain text on Twitter because it was random and 20 characters. It's from a PGP file. He was like, no, dude, I change my password every month. It's my password from 6 months ago. And it was like jaw floor. Because no, crap, this has been out there for 6 months. Okay, so big thanks to CoreLogic, which is my company. I'm from Louisville. I love DerbyCon. My Crack Me If You Can teams. I run a password cracking contest, and I give away cold, hard $1,000 in cash to my winners. But the thing is, when they win, they have to tell me and tell the entire community how they did it. They have to publish their tools. They have to publish their rules and talk about their techniques. So I'm improving it. So anyways, I'm done. Once again, my name's Rick, Minga, or Crack Me If You Can. If you're interested in password cracking, I have a few shirts from Crack Me If You Can from DEF CON, and it just says no password is safe, and it's got like the winners and stuff. So, so I'm done. Thanks a lot, everybody. Shirts are back here.